Bosh, we are back, ladies and gents. Hat Trick Hero is live and direct tonight, and we have got so much to cover. There's been so much going on in the last week or so, and with me tonight to dissect it all over and over again, I am joined by my two fabulous, also co-stars of the show. So first of all, we'll say hello. So Wes, hello, welcome back. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, not too bad, Hollie. Always good to be on an episode with the CBS of the YouTube space. Kate, Scott, Titty, Big Meeks in the building tonight. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, we've got a lot to cover, so it should be a good one. To be fair.
Yeah, there is a lot, but I'm excited because I'm joined with my two favourite people to do so. And Nelson, great to have you on again. How are you?
I'm good, Holly. It's really good to be back for another episode. Just so excited, and yeah, this is international break is over, and it's just nice to be back in that football flow. So yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Let's go for it. I mean, obviously, before we dive into it, obviously we need to talk about the reason that we're here and why it's sponsored by the channel. So, Wes, again, who is Kofa and what do you do?
Yeah, so Kofa or Kickoff Football Academy Milton Keynes run lots and lots of different football sessions across the Milton Keynes area. We've got lots and lots coming up on top of what we're already doing. So we have sessions for boys and girls and beginners, more advanced players, one-to-ones, birthday parties, you name it, we do it pretty much. So yeah, if you've got anyone that's watching from the Milton Keynes area, apart from my mum and dad, if you have a young budding footballer in the household, please send them our way because we'd love to help them along their footballing journey.
Lovely stuff. So make sure you check out Kofa. Obviously, before we start as well, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, what are you doing? Make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, get your comments in as we did this live, and get them in after as well, so we know what we can talk about next week too and get you involved in the channel. But let's kind of get the things running because obviously we've had the game weeks this weekend with the men's and the women's, which we'll definitely get into a bit later on. But we've also got the Ballon d'Or coming up next Monday at 7:45. I think it was the last time. The timings might change a little bit, but for now, it is definitely next Monday. And obviously, we've got lots of categories, and I thought, why better not? Let's talk about it tonight. So, Nelson, I'll come to you first because obviously the first kind of what's the word category is the men's World Player of the Year, and there's a few nominees. I mean, there's a few to name a few with Jude, Kane, Dembele. I mean, for you, Nelson, who do you think standing out amongst that group of players that could potentially be the one that wins it?
Well, I think if the one thing that I've been very annoyed about in the recent months is the PR or everything that's gone behind, the Ballon d'Or and who the media want to win the Ballon d'Or. And obviously, I think a lot of people right now will be thinking that heading into Monday's ceremony, Lamine Yamal is one of the top favorites to win. And despite him, being a fantastic talent, 18 years of age, respectfully, like there's still a lot for him to achieve. Like the fact that we're talking about him at this age, and that people are thinking that he's up there in Ballon d'Or favorites is astonishing. But at the same time, I think his peak hasn't even yet shown. So I think there's just been a lot of. I think in the last few months of the season, especially when he led Barcelona to the semi-finals of the Champions League, a lot of people were just putting it out there. But in terms of front runners for me, I think it lies down with two. For me, it's between Ousmane Dembele, and that's obviously what he's done for PSG over the course of the season. But one person who I think tips it for me, and I don't think a lot of people will say, is one of Lamine Yamal's teammates, and that's Rafinha. And I'm very interested in Rafinha this season potentially getting the trophy. And I think he's had a fantastic last season. He had a fantastic year in terms of goals and assists. I think it amounted to 65 goals and assists throughout the entire season. And he just, I think, if you consider the season he had before, where Barcelona fans were crying out for him to get, sold, or just the fact that he was out of favor when Hansi Flick came in, just absolutely rejuvenate the side, and he's been one of the bright sparks of that side, and he's been absolutely phenomenal. So for me, he's probably one of the front runners, but I wouldn't put it past Ousmane Dembele, especially what PSG have done this season, leading them to Europe and a treble as well. I think them two are going to be front runners, and you've got some dark horses as always, Holly. But in terms of front runners for me, I'll probably go between those two.
Good shouts. I mean, for you as well, Wes, are you kind of in the same boat, or are you thinking is there another name that potentially may pip at the top?
Yeah, I've got the list up here just in case I missed anybody out. I think I'm going to do this properly because Nelson failed to do so. So Usman Dembele, is definitely the front runner for that. I'm surprised Nelson didn't mention some Egyptian geezer that plays for Liverpool in Mo Salah. I think the numbers that he's racking up, and given his age as well, because he's 32 now, and everybody's kind of wondering if and when he will slow down. But he just seems to be going on, and that consistency I think's been big. I think Liverpool's performance in the Champions League, which is what I think the Ballon d'Or, you get judged on pretty much like your performance in the Champions League, and I think that's probably why Salah's not getting those mentions. Having said that, I mean, Elise has just gone on to another level, being at Bayern Munich, and for me, arguably one of the best midfielders in world football at the moment, Vitinha. I want to give him a special shout out because the way he plays, you take him out of that PSG side, they are absolutely nowhere near the same team. He is that important to them in terms of how he gets them playing, his movement off the ball. Like, he conducts games in a way that he wouldn't have, put it this way, he wouldn't have looked out of place in the great Barcelona midfield of Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets. Like, he's that good. He's that good, and he controls games that well. And so I think Vitinha for me is probably the darkest horse out of anybody to win the Ballon d'Or. But for me, my favourite is Ousmane Dembele.
Fair shout. No, you've done it justice there, Wes, as well with that singing. I like it. But I'm going to throw two questions at you, and they're going to be the same. But Wes, I think I'll start with you first. Obviously, in that kind of sense, we said there's a few dark horses who may win it, etc., etc. But are there any players in there? It's kind of a two-mark question. Is there any players in there that you think shouldn't necessarily be named, and is there someone in there that should be replaced?
See, I was thinking about this, Holly, when you mentioned it off air, and it's a really difficult kind of because I think, like, if you take somebody out of that list, I'm then really struggling to find somebody to replace them. But I mean, in terms of a remontada, shout out to Scott McSauce, by the way, because completely ousted at Man United. It was like, get him gone, god awful. Like, he's awful, everything else. And since he's gone to Italy, it must be the food that he's eating, because he is one of the most key players for Conte in this Napoli team. And I mean, it was a bit of a surprise to see his name in there, but then I think if anybody's watched Serie A will understand, like, he's fully kind of deserving to be in there. I believe he also got like Player of the Year, or something along those lines in Serie A last year. So again, a big kind of remontada for McTominay, and what a turnaround he's had. And I think there's a couple of other names that I'm a little bit surprised they're in there. So Guirassy at Dortmund is one. I think the thing with Dortmund is, when people think of Dortmund, they think of like Klopp. They think of maybe Tuchel and the team that they had with like Royce, Lewandowski, and then a little bit later on, Sancho, Bellingham, Haaland, those kind of players. And so I think for somebody like Guirassy, it's really difficult to kind of make a name for himself because of other players that have gone before him. Could even throw Aubameyang in there as well because of what he did at Dortmund. But I don't feel like he's one for me that I look at and go, yeah, I'd have him in there, like in the mix of a Ballon d'Or kind of list. So yeah, I'd probably go with that one as well. That was a big surprise, I think, for me. But I think in terms of everybody else, you can pretty much make a strong case for them being in there. But yeah, I'd probably say Guirassy's the big one that I look at and go, how on earth he managed to kind of wangle his way in there. But again, it's one of them, like, if we take Guirassy out, I don't know off the top of my head realistically like who's worthy of a Ballon d'Or shout. I mean, a Mickey van der Ven goal line clearance in a Europa League final could be worth a shout, or back post Brennan, for scoring in a European final, something obviously Nelson doesn't know too much about. But it's one of those. Like I say, it's difficult to then pinpoint, other players that would be, worthy of being on that list.
No, definitely. I think it is difficult. I mean, Nelson, for you, is there any names that come to mind? And are you kind of on the same boat as well with where's potentially that player that shouldn't necessarily be there?
I 100% agree with Wes in terms of Girassi. Um, I think I think last year when we saw Liverpool run away with the league, I think it's very clear that certain names from that squad should get mentioned because they had a fantastic season. But I think there's a problem with, you see it in other kind of industries as well, where there's kind of, I wouldn't say voters fatigue, but there's clearly fatigue, I think, in the list of names that they've mentioned, in the sense that they've just kind of put to kind of fill out the spots, they've just put the high profile names in there. Like, I could talk about the Real Madrid team who had a disappointing season, got blown away by Barcelona in La Liga, and in terms of the domestic front, didn't win anything. Yet you see the likes of Jude in there, Vinicius, Kylian Mbappe. For me, these guys shouldn't be in there. I think you really got to, I think the panel is a bit too lenient in terms of who they put in there. Like, you look at Cole Palmer, who I think is fantastic. We all know he's a fantastic player at Chelsea, but last season he didn't reach the heights that he did in his first season at Liverpool. And for me, I just think it's just, yeah, I think there's certain players in there. I think Declan Rice, I'm an Arsenal fan. A couple Arsenal players shouldn't have been there. Like, we lost the league. Why should they be in there? In my opinion. Like, I'm quite brutal on, like, I think Elise. I think Elise is a very good dark horse that Wes mentioned. You got Florian Wirtz, who for me, I'm confused because I think he's just there because he's a great talent. I think he had good numbers individual season wise, but I just think, Holly, I think there's a fatigue in the panel in terms of who they're deciding to put on there. Do you know what? They probably should have put a back post Brennan and a Mickey Van der Ven goal line clearance, because at the end of the day, they've won something. And I think that's how you kind of, I think those are the credentials, the criteria to kind of win those kind of things. That trophies should be on that list, or should be one of the criteria that help you get to win the Ballon d'Or. So I kind of agree with Rez. There's nothing I would kind of take out. I think Garassi's the major one that I take out, but it's who you find to replace. If not, for me, I'd cut a lot of names and have more of a condensed kind of short list.
I think my dad's found the perfect replacement, Holly. I don't know if you can pull up his comment. There you go, Mel. So you can see Emerson.
Yeah,
Royale.
there you go.
There we go. We found Garassi's replacement in Emerson Royale.
Oh my days. Anyway, let's move on and talk about obviously the women's Ballon d'Or nominees. And Nelson, I'll start with you. From that kind of list, I mean, in there we've got Bonmati, Chloe Kelly, just to name a few. Who do you think's winning that list?
I'm all lionesses. Anybody lioness, or I'm fuming. It is what it is. I need one of the lionesses to win. They had a fantastic summer, and I think for me, the front runner in that team, or sorry, not the team, in the shortlist would be Alessia Russo. She, for me, goes under the radar a lot because she doesn't. I think people look at strikers and just think goals. But if you watch the game, she does a lot more than just that. And she's a fantastic player for both England and Arsenal. And she has had a little renaissance, obviously, under Renee Slagers, and she just absolutely looks lethal, and she's been a big contributor in helping Arsenal. Obviously, she didn't score in the final to win the Champions League, but she, in that run to get into the final, she was absolutely pivotal. So for me, I can't see nobody else but her or one of the other lionesses winning it. I think the only thing supporting Chloe Kelly is what she did for England in the Euros, and her, as Wes always mentions with her name, Chloe Clutch Kelly in particular. I think that's what's boosted her kind of nomination in there. Of course, I think the other two ones outside of the lionesses, Holly, I would mention are obviously Alexia Putellas and Atana Bonmati. They obviously win the league quite comfortably in Barcelona, but for them, I think what Wes mentioned for the men's, what would probably be a disadvantage for them is the fact that they lost out in the Champions League final to Arsenal. So I think the Arsenal players will probably have an advantage. And obviously, I know there's a category for Club of the Year, which we'll get onto that. But I think that will obviously help them, Arsenal as well, in terms of winning that as well, potentially, because they've won the Champions League. So for me, my front runner would be Alessia Russo. In terms of dark horses, I can't think of any dark horses right now. But looking at the list that I see here, probably a Chelsea player, because they've won 6 on the trot. They could be a dark horse as well. But I am hoping it's a lioness or nobody else. Otherwise, Holly, we are protesting. We are absolutely protesting.
I'm on that vibe, 100%, because like I said, the Lionesses have done so much, not just for obviously winning things, but so much for the game here in England, we talk so much about. But Wes, I'll come to you. Are you kind of on the same vibe as Nelson? You kind of feeling that it's going to be potentially a Lioness that's going to claim the crown?
Potentially, but then I'm looking at the names for the Lionesses, and I feel like there are other players on the list who probably have a little bit more what I would class as almost credit in the bank. So I know Nelson obviously mentioned Bonmati and Pateus as well. I feel like they've got that sort of credit in the bank already, and I feel like that's potentially going to maybe sway some votes. I think Pernilla Harder as well, obviously a top player. Sandy Baltimore as well, I think is an interesting player, might kind of get in the mix. But I personally think the women's one is a little bit more open than the men's. I think you could make a bit more of a case for a lot more of these women's players than you could with the men's. But I think for me, my three would probably be Baltimore, Bonmati, and Pateus. Those are my three. I mean, if Leah wins it, geez, she's getting the freedom of Milton Keynes, and the publicity that will come with that for my area will be off the scale, because at the moment Leah is the poster girl for for English football in general, never mind football in Milton Keynes. So we've got the thing of like, okay, Arsenal's captain, England's captain, yeah, has come from Milton Keynes. If we then get the Ballon d'Or winner coming from Milton Keynes, I don't think people will understand kind of how big that is, considering the size of the area of Milton Keynes. It's not massive. And so, yeah, I think there'll be a lot of people that will be dining out on the fact that Leah Williamson has won the Ballon d'Or. So, yeah, I mean, there's a small part of me that will go on, Leah, come on, Leah, like bring it home, type of thing. But yeah, I'd probably put those other three ahead. Like I said, I think they're kind of obviously a little bit more, I would argue, experienced players, a little bit more credit in the bank, and I think that might just sway some voters in that sense.
No, it's a fair comment. I mean, we've spoken obviously about how sometimes how these things are picked and how these players are picked is also done on their past merit as well. But personally, I just want a Lioness to win. But we'll have to wait and see for that one. But obviously, we're going to move on and we're going to cluster these ones together in terms of the men's and the women's Copper Trophy. So I'm going to come to you first, Nelson, because there's a name on the women's one that's staring at me, and I'm not even going to say her name because I think you know who it is. So Nelson, far away.
Star girl, Michelle Aji. That is who I think is gonna win the Copper Trophy. I think what's amazing about the Copper trophies, in my opinion, I think is regardless of trophies that have probably they've won in their young careers. For me, it just should be all about the best talent. Who is the best talent out there right now that is under that age? And for me, right now for the women's, I'm going to go for Michelle Agiman. I think Linda Caicedo, I might be wrong, but I think she has won it in the past. And it would be surprising for her to win it again, considering Real Madrid again didn't have a great season. I think all those names that I see on the list, Captain Vicky Lopez, who probably has the only kind of merit because of her winning with Barcelona. Ajiman's the only one, and I think her impact. I think people need to understand that those who obviously have watched and tuned into the Lionesses' victory at the Euros would know that her impact is huge. And 6 months ago, no one knew who she was. And now everybody in the country knows who she is, essentially, from that tournament. So I wouldn't put it past her. Hopefully she does win. If she doesn't, I think it'd be a big surprise for many. For the men's one, I know you asked for to kind of condense it. The men's one's hard because there's a lot of good talent, and I know Wes is happy to see that talent on that list. There's some names we can go there. I know Wes in recent weeks has shouted Esteval from Chelsea. He is a fantastic young talent, and I'm very looking forward to seeing him. My boy Miles Lewis Skelly's there. I don't think he'll win it, but I think it's great that he's got a nomination on there. Why are you shaking your head, bro? Like at the end of the day, he's got a nomination. I think he's had a good impact, but I would put it out there and said that there is probably better young talent out there that could have got ahead of him. I think so. But I'm gonna go for João Neves. João Neves of PSG for me is, and I'm only saying that because I think Lamine won it last year. and it's probably expected for Lamine to win it again this year. But I'm just putting him out, I think for him he's like a elite 1A. But if I'm going like 1B, 1C sort of thing, I think João Neves should get it. Like Wes mentioned how important Vitinha is, but João Neves is ridiculous as well. Like the way I don't know what Luis Enrique has done for that season, but he's a fantastic talent. And the other day, I think he bagged two of the best bicycle kicks I've seen in one game that you will ever see, or the best hat trick you'd ever see in a football game. For me, I think I'll put João Neves in there. His teammate Desiree Doué is not far behind. I think when people talk about joga bonito and the way football should be played, I think he brings that style back and that flair for football. Dean Hyson. Dean Hyson
he's just a chill guy. He's just a chill guy.
Thank you, Wes. He's just a chill guy. He is a big dark horse because I think from him to get that move from Bournemouth to Real Madrid is for no joke. He's actually done it because he has the credentials and he had a fantastic season with Zabani back at Bournemouth. But I'm gonna go. I know. In terms of time and stuff, I'm gonna go for João Neves. Only because Lamine Yamal has won it. I've also got Yildiz in there. I forgot about Yildiz. I've seen his name on there, and he's a ridiculous young talent. But I'm going to go for João Neves, Hollie.
Great shout. It will be interesting to see how that one kind of happens. But Wes, for you, obviously we've spoken about Michelle Aubameyang, but I butchered again. Is she the winner for you? And for your men's, are you kind of down the same page as Nelson, or is there someone else that you're kind of thinking that's going to claim it?
I think for me, for the women's, Linda Caicedo. I think she'll probably win it. And then for the men's, now this is where it gets a bit sticky for me. I think if Lamine Yamal doesn't get the main Ballon d'Or, I think he clears up on the Coppa Trophy. And I think that's kind of that. I think Nelson mentioned Esteval. I think it's too soon for him. I think he's kind of in there. I think based off his Club World Cup performance. And he was outstanding for Palmeiras in the Club World Cup, and the impact he's made at Chelsea has been phenomenal. There's a player that I would have loved to have seen in there, who's slowly becoming my favourite player, and he's a Swedish Luka Modric and Lucas Bergvall. I think Spurs fans are starting now to understand just how good he is, and it won't be too long before the rest of football understands just how good he is at 19 years of age. Like, to think the situation he also came into at Spurs at the time that he was getting minutes wasn't ideal either, and yet it was almost a case of give him the ball and he will get us out of jail at 18 years of age in the Premier League. That is bonkers behaviour. So I would have loved to have seen Bergvall in there, and I think if Lewis Skelly's in there, then Bergvall 100% should be in there. Like, it's. Do you know what I mean? He's like, Bergvall's also played more games than Lewis Skelly as well. I know it's not about that, but I think obviously in terms of that experience of breaking into a side, I think for me Bergvall would have been one. But I think if Lamine Yamal doesn't win the main prize, I think he 100% wins the Coppa Trophy for the men's.
Yeah, it's a great shout. Like I say, it's all kind of hanging in the balance whether he wins the other one, depending on whether he wins this one. But obviously, we'll move on because we've got the Ashen Trophy as well. So again, there's so many names in there, Nelson. And it is hard to obviously try and pick one out of there. But for you, who's going to be the men's winner and who's going to be the women's winner?
I'm looking at the list now, Hollie. I think it's quite clear. I think Donnarumma's season has been fantastic, and there's again, like Wes mentioned last week, in the transfer windows review that we did, how he's gone to City for that money, and everyone's just let that happen. Is scary hours for the rest of the league and Europe, in my opinion. So for me, he gets the men's trophy. For the women's, it's quite a good list. I can see some certain names. I think Berger has been very impressive. I think what she done for Germany in the Euros, I think there was a game, I think it was against France when they were down to 10 men, and she absolutely had a blind of the game. I've not seen a performance like that for a long time, and I think she had scored the winning penalty. I may be incorrect. Correct me if I'm wrong, Hollie. However, I think the theme that I've had tonight, Hollie, is lionesses and my girls. So I am going to go for Hannah Hampton. I think just give her the Ballon d'Or for the fact that she had changed or she threw away the Spanish keeper's bottle that had all the details from the penalty shootout. That should get her the Ballon d'Or
Get
alone.
the statue outside St George's Park ASAP.
Absolutely ASAP Rocky. And I think that is why, not even why she deserves it, but I think people need to understand she had to follow in the footsteps of a great keeper in Mary Earps. We know there was controversy in Mary leaving the squad and leaving and retiring. But Hannah, to have that trust from Serena, stepped up massively. There were big games. The game against Sweden was huge. She saved us there. She had a double save, I think, in the last 10 minutes that could have knocked us out. She was huge. In the final, she made some great saves too. So for her to kind of repay that trust that Serena gave her, I think she deserves the Ballon d'Or for the women. So for my decision, I'm going to go Hannah for the women's, and I'm going to go for Donnarumma for the men's.
Some great shouts. I mean, Wes, are you following the same kind of suit?
I am, and I think Donnarumma, his performances for PSG in the Champions League, and particularly last season, were phenomenal. Like big saves at crucial times in games, and stuff like that. I think that's probably partly the reason why I think he's in there. Although having said that, I think Chevalier at Lille, I think is a interesting shout. Obviously, Allison in there as well. Matt Sells had a great season at Forest, but that was kind of it. To be fair, he was great for FPL players. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, I think Donnarumma's the standout in that one. And then I think again from the women's point of view, I think Hannah Hampton. What I liked about her was her mentality of just shrugging off every kind of question that was thrown her way throughout the tournament, because she was getting it near enough, even in latter stages where you think, right, the media are going to give it a rest now. Like she's kind of proven her worth. And it was just constant, like, okay, she's replacing Mary Earps. Can she step up in this game? Can she do that? And it's like, is she good with the ball at her feet? Mate, she could play centre mid. She's that good. Just popping it, and everything else. And I think she was crucial to the way England played in terms of their build phase, and how good she was with the ball at her feet, trying to penetrate passes through the lines. And again, big saves in big moments, as Nelson mentioned, and the absolute shithousery in the final. She deserves it, as Nelson said, just for that, really. Like I say, get the statue built at St George's Park, front and centre. Please, FA, make it happen.
Get it done. But no, it will be interesting again, like all these kind of awards, who's going to win it. And I think I've got a strong feeling for Hannah Hampton. I kind of echo what you guys have all kind of said. But we're going to move on to obviously the coach of the year for both the men's and the women's. And Wes, I'll start for you for this one. Go on, who are you going for?
Well, I'm gutted my name's not on the list, to be fair. But I had a great year, to be honest. I don't think anybody's looking past Luis Enrique. I think everybody will know, like the transformation within that Paris Saint-Germain team, and also the mindset now of the club, is a lot down to him. Came in and it was literally like the Harlem Globetrotters, the superstars and everything else. And I think between him and Luis Campos, who deserves a lot of credit as well, by the way, they have built a team to win. And it's a balanced team, not a team of superstars who should win. They've got a really good balance with the PSG team. And yeah, I think everybody was just marveling at them, especially in the knockout phase of the Champions League. Again, Conte going in at Napoli, winning the league. Serie A, not an easy league to go and win. Hansi Flick, again, transformational type of job that he's done at Barcelona. And I think it will come good for them eventually if they stick with him. I think they've just got to be a little bit patient. Obviously, it's over 10 years now, believe it or not, since Barcelona last won the Champions League. But he had a hell of a job to transform Barcelona. He's almost fighting with one hand behind his back, because obviously we know the financial side of it with Barcelona. But again, the job he's done and the way Barcelona play as well is very, I wouldn't say it's reminiscent of Pep and that tiki-taka style. It's probably more, I would say, throwback to Frank Rijkaard, where good balance, good structure behind the ball, and then at the top end of the pitch, game changers, match winners that can go and get the job done. But I think Luis Enrique is the one that's going to win it from the men's side. Women's side, now this is really difficult. this is really difficult because Sonia Bonpastor has gone into a winning machine and put so much oil on it. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I think she deserves a massive shout out. Renee Slager's obviously going in at a difficult moment at Arsenal and winning the Champions League, and the job she's done there has been fantastic. And who can forget Serena? You know, it's a tournament. It's Serena Wiegmann. She wins. It's what she does. So yeah, I think those top three for me. I couldn't split those three for the women.
No. Good shout. Good shout. I mean, Nelson, for you, obviously, if we're going down the Lionesses route again, I'm assuming Serena's going to win the women's one.
It's going to be a clean sweep. I think Serena should win the award. I think she has been fantastic. But at the same time, I think the women's category, I agree with, was actually much harder to choose from than the men's. And I couldn't really put past between those three that he had mentioned. I like the fact that Justine Madugu got a shout out for leading Nigeria to the AFCON, and that's getting recognition as well, because compared to the men's game, I think the African Cup of Nations is kind of seen still as like a minority type international tournament. So I think that's really cool that they've given her a nomination. For the men's, I'm going to go for Luis Enrique. I think PSG might actually sweep the awards looking back at, the categories and what we've discussed, because of their tremendous kind of, feat in winning the Champions League. So in terms of the men's, I'm going to go for Luis Enrique. But for the women's, as much as I'd like to go for Renee Slagers and Serena, I'm going to go for Sonia Bonpastor. I'm going to go for her. I think she might just pip it.
Ooh, interesting. No, again, exciting stuff. I mean, we have got one more category, and Nelson, I'll come to you because obviously men's club of the year and women's club of the year. So who's winning that? Obviously, the women's one, we've only got 3 to choose from. So I can imagine who that's going to be.
Yeah, let's bring it home to the Gunners. I think we should win. Look, I think Chelsea will probably win it because of what they've done domestically. I think if we have a chance of winning it, it's just as Wes mentioned, the fact that Renee came in at that point in the season and transformed the team. I think that will probably get us over the line. The men's one, I think, will go to PSG. Again, we just as mentioned, like a kind of clean sweep of awards. But it's nice that they've put. I don't know why they've put Botafogo in there. I think they had won the Copa Libertadores. I think that's why they've been put in there. So sorry, that sounds quite ignorant of me, but no, they've been put in there because of that. But I think PSG are probably going to sweep that and win that. And then I'm going to go for Chelsea for the Women's Club of the Year. I'm going to go for them.
Interesting. How about you, Wes? Same kind of thing?
Yeah, I think PSG for the men. Liverpool had a good season. I'm not disregarding that. I think Arne Slot done a great job with someone else's team. That's his issue. Chelsea for winning the Club World Cup would probably get a mention for the men. And obviously Enzo winning the Conference League. Botafogo again did all right, obviously in Brazil, and I think they were in the Club World Cup as well. Some really good performances. I think 4 of their players ended up signing for Forest as well. So it'll be interesting to see obviously how those players adapt in English football. Barcelona, I can't really see it, because I think if anybody's being brutally honest, I think everybody was expecting Barcelona to get to the Champions League final from the men, and it didn't happen. So I think everybody was expecting the Barca PSG final, and that didn't happen because of Inter Milan, which I am a little bit surprised that Inter aren't in it, because they were massively written off, with their Champions League kind of run. It was a bit like they're not going to do it, and then they just found routes and ways to win. So I'm surprised Inter aren't in there. For the women's side of things, I can see, unfortunately, Arsenal winning it just based off their Champions League exploits. I think had Barcelona won the Champions League, you would have probably gone with Barcelona. Obviously, they're pretty much the main dominant force as well in Spanish women's football. So yeah, I think for me, Arsenal for the women, PSG for the men.
Interesting. And we'll have to see who wins it all on Monday as they kind of do the ceremony, etc. But like I say, well, before we move on to obviously what's happening this weekend coming up, make sure you're subscribing to the channel over on Hat Trick Heroes, the new home of this show. So make sure you go do that, whether you're doing it now or at the end of the show. Go and click that subscribe button. But obviously, we're going to move on and quickly talk about obviously the Premier League this weekend and potentially what's coming up at the weekend. Obviously, UCL has kicked in this week as well, which means a lot of club have had a lot of games to kind of partake in. But I'm going to come to you first, Nelson. I'm going to talk about Liverpool and Everton at the weekend, the big derby. Obviously, at the weekend, Liverpool only just beat Burnley 1-0 because of a Salah penalty. So this derby, how you see it going down?
First of all, top 5 derbies in the league. But at the same time, I think when looking at the fact that Liverpool just scraped a win against Burnley, I might see this going to a draw. And the only reason why I say this only because I think Everton will really want to put up a fight. And I think they will be really confident coming into this game based on how they've played. I think they've played a lot more free-flowing football, and I think that's obviously down to the likes of Dewsbury Hall and Jack Grealish being in there. There's just something a bit different about how they zip the ball about this season, and it's nice that they have those creative players in there. But I think, look, if we're talking based on both teams on paper, then Liverpool should win the game. But I think like we know between Arsenal and Tottenham, anything's up for grabs in the derby. So that's why I kind of see a potential draw, like a shock happening, and Everton actually stealing points from Liverpool. If that doesn't happen, Hollie, then obviously Liverpool, I think, are coming away with it. I just don't see Everton winning at all. I don't see them winning at all. But I wouldn't put it past them if they actually were able to grab a draw and be able to nick some points off Liverpool.
Yeah, it will be an interesting one. And I know normally I ask you both how you feel the game's going to go, but I think this week I'm going to kind of mix it up because we've obviously discussed a lot already tonight, and I want to keep things moving. So, Wes, the game I'm going to give you is United Chelsea. Now, this is a big one because obviously Chelsea drew at the weekend to Brentford 2-2, and United obviously got absolutely ripped apart by City, beating them 3-0. So, for you, how do you see this United Chelsea game going down?
Very one-sided for me because United are absolutely all over the place. People spoke last year about Ange and his stubbornness and his unwillingness to change. Yet there's some Portuguese geezer in Manchester that is literally doing the same, and I think only murmurings now are starting to come out that he perhaps needs to change, where it is clearly abundant that he needs to scrap his 3-4-3. He is not getting the best out of his best players. Whereas I think with Ange, it was more of a case of you have to change because you haven't really got anybody else. But Ange was a bit like, no, we play this way regardless of who's in the team, etc., etc. But I actually think Chelsea's quality and their almost like togetherness within their team will count for more going into this game. Obviously, I know they're playing Bayern Munich sort of as we speak at the time of recording, so that might take a lot out of them anyway, and United should be a little bit fresher. But yeah, I see for me nothing but a Chelsea win because United just don't know what they're doing at the moment. So I don't think it's going to be one of them where Chelsea go and really turn up and put in like an A-star performance. I just think they're better than Man United, and I just think Chelsea don't necessarily have to be at their best to beat Man United, and I think that's probably why it'll end up as a Chelsea win.
Yeah, United are woeful. It's quite funny, but yeah. I mean, the other big
Anyone enjoying United's downfall is a sick individual. So yeah, I am massively ill at the moment. Put it that way.
Defo. Me included in that as well. But obviously the other big game of the weekend, because we won't go through all of them, but we'll go up through the other big one, which is obviously Arsenal City, Nelson. Now, obviously Arsenal did beat Ange's Forest 3-0 at the weekend. So how are you seeing this one shaping up, and how are you feeling for it?
I'm feeling quite good for it. I think Arsenal, after we beat Athletic Club, even though we didn't play well, because I think that's the theme between obviously the title favourites between Arsenal and Liverpool, is that they haven't been playing well but still getting results, and that's obviously signs of champions, what people say, signs of champions. But City, I think, will be looking to get revenge for how we beat them last season at the Emirates. Obviously, it was 5-1. It was quite humiliating for them that it happened at the hands of us, considering that was kind of, for me, that was the peak of when Haaland had said, stay humble, and that was the peak and on that day. but I think it's going to be a very tight affair. I think before that game where we beat City 5-1, it was one of those ones where Pep and Mikel go tit for tat. Like, it always kind of ends in stalemates because one will try and outmaneuver the other. Like, if Pep makes a sub, Mikel will see it and then try and make another, like, just to counter it. So I think those two will be at it again. I think it's very much a question whether or not Mikel Arteta is going to set up to win or if he wants to reserve points. For me, if you're trying to get the league, you have to go for it. The players in the dressing room have to go for it. There's no excuse this year, especially when you've got the squad depth, especially that the fans have been complaining for a few years about replacements and people in that can cover. We now have that, so there's no excuses. So I think I want us to win. I think it's going to end in a draw. I think it will be like one of those good draws that you see, like a 2-2 or maybe a 3-3. That's what I predict, because I think City, they'll be buzzing after their derby win. And Arsenal, I think, will not they're going to try and get out. I think they've struggled with low blocks. I'm not saying City do a low block, but they've just been struggling to kind of create open chances. And whether or not City are going to want to play an open game, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's going to end in a draw.
No, it will be interesting. It will be a really tasty game as well. Obviously, that kind of concludes what I want to talk about in the Premier League. Obviously, there's so many games going on, but I think they were the ones that stood out to me. But obviously, we're going to talk WSL as well, because on the Hat Trick Heroes, we talk about the Premier League and the WSL. And Nelson, I'm going to come to you because obviously, there was a game at the weekend that we wound Wes up about Spurs and Everton. Now, Spurs managed to do the business. And I don't want to come to Nelson first because I want to talk to him a bit later about it. But for you, how did that game go? Because there were so many good goals in that game as well for Spurs.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game for Spurs, and I think I was on the receiving end of those goals essentially because I really thought the Everton women would do it. They obviously, there's a lot more. This is just the start of the season. Let's just put it out there. But in terms of what Wes has just said recently, it doesn't look good for them if they're going to continue to perform like that at Goodison Park. But I think Tottenham deserved it. They definitely outplayed them, and that's just experience. When you have players that have played in the WSL for that many years, and a lot more chemistry, I think, compared to the Everton side, who still have, some players that are still trying to gel and stuff. Yeah, you guys just set up perfectly, and it was a fantastic win. So at the end of the day, as Wes said, I had to hold it. I had to charge the loss, and that's something that I'm just going to have to move on with.
No, it's fine. I'm also there because obviously, as well as on Friday, Everton are at home again at Goodison Park. They're playing London City. Now, this is going to be a tasty game because, as we've kind of spoke about, the money and the investment that London City have had, they haven't really done anything too much to talk about in obviously what's been going in the WSL so far. So they're at Goodison Park. How do you see this one going down, Wes?
I think this one could be a draw. Is my honest opinion. I think London City Lionesses, the fixture list has not been kind to them. You think about their first two games, obviously going away to Arsenal, who are champions of Europe for the women anyway, not the men. So really difficult game. And then coming in at your first home game is against Man United, who have individuals with real star quality that can take the game away from you at any point. Obviously, the likes of Ella Toon and Jess Park and etc. Leah Galton et al. As well. So I think they'll be looking at this game as a really good opportunity for them to pick up at least a point. So I think that will be, and I think similarly to Everton as well. Like, they're looking at it and going, this is a game that we're probably expecting to get something from as well. But no, I see this one being a draw because I think the teams probably balance themselves out, and I think they're pretty even. I would argue on paper. Nelson may have something else to say on that because he's more of a WSL expert than me. But I think from what I know, I think the teams are fairly balanced and fairly even. So yeah, I'm going to go score draw for that one.
Nice. I like it. I mean, Nelson, I will come to you for that one because obviously it is a big talking point with London City Lionesses, and obviously as well with Everton, how, like we said, the curse at Goodison Park seems to be boding not so well for them at the moment. So are you in the same kind of boat as Wes? It could potentially be a draw.
It could be a draw. I think I'm worried that they're not going to win, and I think the London City Lionesses might get their first win of the season. I think they're hungry, and obviously to lose three on the trot is not a good look. Was one of the worst starts to have, especially as a newly promoted team. So they'll be trying to go out there to try and get their first win of the season. If not, then Everton should win. But again, like Wes said, I actually can't. I actually can see a draw happening as well. So I think my prediction, Holly, is that I don't think Everton are going to do it for the second time. They just have to do it this one time so we can at least say that they can perform at Goodison Park. But I'm gonna go in terms of between a draw and a Lioness win. I'm gonna go for the London City Lionesses.
Nice, wowee. But no,
Wait,
it will.
wait. So Everton losing again at Goodison.
Look, don't look. My girl might see this. Look,
If
don't.
I speak, I will be in big trouble.
That's what I'm gonna go for. I'm gonna go for Lionesses. Yeah.
Oh wow, we're never gonna shut him up, are we? They need to do the business at Goodison Park. Everton that is. But obviously that kind of concludes the WSL because obviously Arsenal thrash West Ham and it's not a very good time to be a West Ham fan at the moment, which is also lovely. So I thought I'd slip that in there. And the other game I was going to kind of talk about was Arsenal Villa, but Nelson, I feel like Arsenal will do the business against Villa anyway.
Yeah, I hope they do the business. I think that'll be a good game to look forward to. Aston Villa gave I can't remember who it was they played. They played Chelsea. They played Chelsea on the weekend and they gave them a run for their money, I think, within the first half. And Chelsea, I think, kind of scraped that victory, especially Sam Kerr obviously getting back to the goals. It was something that I think Villa can be looking forward to that game against Arsenal and feel encouraged by the performance against the champions. Ebony Salmon is a player to look out for. She is a dangerous player. I loved her ever since. I think she was at Bristol City, I believe, and she was a baller. And she still is. And that goal, if you see it on the weekend, just for anyone to just view beautiful goals, the way she just clips it over Hannah Hampton was beautiful. So I think Villa can look forward to a game against Arsenal. But when you've got the depth that Arsenal have, I think you're expecting an Arsenal win.
Definitely. And I think that kind of wraps up WSL, but it doesn't wrap up obviously because I do want to get the FPL up, Nelson. So you can kind of walk through
Hollie
how it
must have
kind of
done
went
well
on.
this week then, because FPL's back. Here we go.
Yeah, my bad. But Nelson, go on. Tell the people what you went for, what you're kind of looking out for the upcoming week.
So I went for a 3-4-3. I thought I'd keep more midfielders and strikers and kind of leave the defense a bit more open at the back. I mean, Maya Letitia got a goal and assist on the day. So if like, she is a FPL legend in my opinion for the women's game, and she gets a lot of bonus points. Tooney I had as captain didn't kind of work out for me, and Vignola I thought she would bang, but obviously Spurs had something else to say. Yui Hasagawa I think is quite underrated as a player, and I think she bagged a goal against I think when City won 2-1. And Aggie Beaver Jones could end up being top scorer this season, second 2 goals in 2 games. Nikita Paris scored the first goal for the season, and Kira Walsh I think got points because the second goal that Chelsea scored was classed as an own goal, but she was the one who struck the ball, so she got me some points there. So I'm looking to hopefully get more points. I want to break the 80-point barrier. It's going to be hard. I think my plan for the season has always been to kind of distribute it. So when you have subs that you can bring on and replace, most people tend to go for a really big 11, but I've kind of gone for that. I think I might have to switch it up and maybe go for like a huge strong 11 and bring in a Russo, maybe bring in a Bunny Shaw in there because I'm going to need some firepower.
Nice, a great shout. And like I say, it is really interesting to see, like you say, how it kind of works in women's FPL. Like I say, I will try and get on it once I've cracked the men's, which at the moment I'm not doing too bad because, I've got more points than Wes again this week. I'm higher up in the table. So, I'm getting there. But Wes, go on, talk me through your team and what you're potentially maybe thinking of doing for this weekend.
Yeah, so I made a couple of changes. I swapped the Forest lads out, and I put in Trufer at the back. I brought in Ekatike, which absolutely flopped. I think I also brought in Munoz as well at obviously at Palace, but no, it was a solid day for obviously the likes of Pickford, Tarky, and Gabrielle at the back. Antoine Semenyo, if you do not have him in your teams, get him in ASAP. He's doing bits this season. Obviously, Reinders, I was expecting maybe for him to nick a goal, but obviously that didn't happen. Haaland, turns up it's just Erling Haaland. Less said about that, the better, really. I thought Ekitike would do really well against Burnley, but I think obviously the way Burnley set up, low block, defend the edge of the box, bit of a throwback to the Sean Dyche days, made life really difficult, and he was hooked fairly early. I was hoping for a better performance as well out of João Pedro against Brentford. I mean, he did get an assist, but I was hoping for a little bit more. So yeah, that's kind of where my team's at in terms of what I'm looking at in terms of moving forwards. I'm probably going to have to go a little bit Claudio Ranieri, Tinkerman, make a few changes, and just freshen it up a little bit. I think might take Morgan Rogers out and replace him with someone, because he's not really having the level of impact that I'm after. And again, I think the interesting one with maybe someone like Reinders is obviously that City play their Champions League game tomorrow, and that tight turnaround Thursday, Sunday may have a little bit of an impact. Obviously, they got two sort of big games. They got Napoli and obviously Arsenal. So yeah, that might be one that I look at. The reason why Njai wasn't in is because he had a little bit of a knock, so I thought I'd put him on the bench. But I mean, he got 5 points, so it's not like he's got in double figures. So I'm not really that bothered about that one, to be fair.
Right, and to be fair, there are parallels between mine and your team with obviously Haaland, João Pedro, Reinders, Semenyo. It's just a few others because obviously, like we say, I kept Salah in because I thought he'd do the business, and he luckily got that penalty against Burnley. But I think I am
Did you
going
try
to.
and copy my homework but make a few changes so no one would notice? Was that it?
Yeah, made it a little bit better. That's what I did. But no, I'm still. I think I do need to do a bit of tinkering with it because I don't think my luck is gonna run out at some point. But yeah, that's kind of the thoughts for FPL. So make sure obviously you tune in, sort out your FPL, so we can obviously see how you're doing in the league table. But I guess that kind of wraps everything up for tonight. It was a very much a whistle stop tour, but I think we've managed to condense a lot of juicy stuff into tonight. So if you are tuning in right now, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that subscribe. If you're watching Hollie Hotspurs, make sure you come over to Hat-Trick Heroes because that will be the new permanent home of this show. But without further ado, let's go around the table, say our goodbyes, because again, it's been a cracking show. So first of all, Wes, thank you again for joining us all tonight. Where can everybody find you?
Yeah, so Twitter's at Wezo10, unofficial Moussa Dembele fan account, as everyone knows by now. I'm hoping to maybe transition into an unofficial Kevin Danso fan account, but he's not really playing much at the moment, so it's making life a little bit difficult. I haven't got much to go off. But yeah, I'm usually just kind of tweeting random stuff, to be honest, and keeping up to date with news and probably new Spurs songs, to be fair, so I can sing them when I go to games, etc. And then Instagram is at Wezo32. I have a feeling I'll probably be at weekend Spurs games because the midweek ones might kill me off a little bit because I've started a new job recently, so I'm just trying to manage my workload a little bit on that. And then obviously anything football coaching related is Kickoff Football Academy or Kofa MK across the socials. Instagram's Wezo32, Twitter at Wezo10. Bosh.
Boom, love it. Thank you again, Wes and Nelson. Where can everybody find you too?
Thank you, Hollie. It's been another great episode. You could find me, guys, on Instagram at nnatumba25. That's nnatumba25 on Instagram.
Bosh. And like I say, it's lovely to have you both on here. Lovely to have everybody in the chat as well. Thank you everybody that's watched live. Like I say, make sure you go subscribe to Hat-Trick Heroes. We can find this each week. And I guess that kind of leaves me to say, until next time, up the Hat-Trick Heroes.
Out there.